Today I'm going to talk about, should you start a podcast for your hair business? Now, a podcast can be a great way to indirectly market your brand as well as get you a ton of contacts by doing interviews.
There he is. There he is.
Hey, this is Mikey of the Hair Business Blueprint. Make sure you subscribe to my channel if you want to be winning in the hair industry. Myself and the private label team has tons of content and information for you to succeed and make it to the next level. Now, one of the 243,823 things I try to do in a day is I have a podcast with my co-host Zakira. It's called Hair Biz Radio. Hair Biz Radio is something we started in 2017, and it's been a great way for people to connect with the private label brand, connect with myself and Zakira, who's been working with us for over 7 years. We give tons of information, tips. We've met a lot of people through interviews, and as a matter of fact, I just recently found out we have in the top 1.5% globally popular podcasts. Now, this is something that we've been working on for quite some time, and honestly, we're not even as consistent with it as we would like to be. But should you do a podcast for your business is something we should talk about. So let's go over some of the pros and cons, and I'm going to give you some tips and ideas of how to get started. We talk about all the time creating content for your hair business. A podcast can be a great way to do so. Doing interviews with influencers, interviews with other people in the industry can be a nice way to get you other connections that you might not have gotten otherwise. It's a lot easier to reach out to someone to say, hey, I've been following what you're doing and I would love to interview you for my XYZ podcast. It's a great way to meet others in the same industry. Our industry is the hair industry, for your brand. And you never know, they could end up featuring you on their website. They could share your podcast in their social network, which is in turn a way for others to find about you and your business. So that's definitely a pro of having a podcast. Setting up a podcast honestly has never been easier. You know, we use a website called anchor.fm. I'll make sure that I put a link below. You can actually set up the podcast hosting for free. And there's a lot of things that you can do with the content. At Hair Biz Radio, we not only record the audio, but we record the video. So I'll have links below if you would like to check that out. But what's great about that is some people consume content in different ways. Some people want to drive home and consume the content. They can do that in the audio format. Maybe they're just hanging out at home and you put the video on YouTube and they can consume the content that way. So think about getting the most out of the podcast that you can. You're generally going to need a camera or a couple cameras if you really want to make it fancy. A lot of the podcasting equipment out there is generally pretty inexpensive these days because podcasting has become so popular. Back in the day, I needed these complicated mixing boards. I didn't know how to use this stuff. Now there's things like a Rodecaster Pro that you can hook a couple microphones in and get that audio file. It makes it really easy, and you can actually even do telephone calls and record them within the Rodecaster. There's plenty of other microphones out there, you know, the stands, everything you can find on Amazon. If you do a quick search in Google, you can find some of the best audio equipment, and usually you're going to spend a couple $100 to get all this stuff set up. The Rodecaster might be closer to $500. You can also use a tool like a Zoom H4 has been really popular with podcasters and a great way to capture audio. Now, think about it. Once you have this content, you want to get it out there. You're always looking for content to post on your social media, in your email newsletters. This is great content. You can also create blog posts around each video or audio that you make with each episode for your podcast. So if you have a video, you can embed the video as a blog post, and then you can have content. Now, if you want it transcribed, you can use a service like rev.com. I have a link below for you if you want to check that out. And what they'll do is actually transcribe your whole entire podcast. This could be a couple thousand words long depending on how long your podcast is. Now, when you do a podcast, the key is after you have a guest, make sure that you have it set up where you're sending them a quick video clip or something they can share on their social media. Remember, if you're going to do a podcast, you have to be really committed to it. The first year is just like your business. You're probably not getting many sales in your business. It's going to be the same, not a lot of listens. But over time, if you're consistent, if you can do it every week or every other week, that's great. I've met some amazing people as being a guest on a podcast. People reach out to us on Hair Biz Radio. They want to be guests on our podcast and they want to meet us. It's really exciting. Podcast has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger over the years, and I think it's something you should consider for your hair business. If you have any questions about getting a podcast started, please make sure to leave a comment below. And of course, if you want great karma today and in the future, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the Hair Business Blueprint.